are about to begin exploring songs of the land. So, lovely to see you all. I know there's lots else going on, so thank you for coming back here. We have a wonderful panel here with us, many of whom you will recognise from our opening ceremony. But before we start, I would love to invite the one person who wasn't part of the opening ceremony to begin. Is that good with you, Sam? Brilliant. Sam Lee.
Just wait for this. Here it is. Awake, awake, sweet England. Sweet England, now awake unto the land obediently, and let us all partake. For our future now is calling, all in the sky so clear. So resound, resound, sweet England, for our history's always near. Let us sing unto this living story. Let us sing, let us sing unto this living story. Let us sing.
So, let us sing. We're here to talk about songs of the land. So, I have the most magnificent panel for you here. First of all, we have Dr. Lyla Johnston, who you heard in the opening. She's rooted in the Dene tradition of Turtle Island. She's a musician and community organiser. And as you talked about earlier, Lyla, researching the ways in which our oldest ancestors worked with the land as gardeners and food growers. Sam is a folk singer and song collector. I love that. He's well known for his singing with nightingales, and his latest album, Song Dreaming, is a suite of love songs from and for the land. Carolyn, Hillyer, also who you'll be familiar with from our opening, is a musician and ritual holder and works from the most beautiful roundhouse, which I haven't yet visited but must, in the middle of Dartmoor, in the wilds of Dartmoor, where she listens to the land and weaves song and ceremony, particularly for women. And then we have Charlotte Church, again from your beautiful opening, who is a singer and an activist and a land steward, and you hold a learning community called the Arwen community in Wales. So welcome to all of you. It's very difficult to know where to start really, but perhaps Sam, because you started with a song, could you tell us where it is that songs come from then? What do we mean by songs of the land?
Which map do you look at for this?
Yes, yours we'll start with.
What are my maps? Well, my great teacher, who I was very privileged to spend the last years of his life, who was a Scottish traveller of the kind of old people of the northeast of Scotland. The travellers are in many ways the great stewards of song, of the ballads of Scotland, as the gypsies are, and the Irish travellers, the songkeepers. And the songs are the maps. The songs are the maps. He would often speak that the travellers believed the songs didn't live inside you, they were around. And as before one sings, one calls them in. And that's part of the kind of contract with the ancestors, that when we sing the ancestor songs, we download. We're the antenna, we're the vessel through which it comes. But to know the songs takes many years of singing, and also knowing the land from which they come. And they are an expression, and they hold an imprint in them of their place. And a song can hold nascency to many different places and many different communities. But they are our compasses, they are our guides. Sometimes on physical journeys, many of our songs of the British Isles hold incredibly detailed knowledge of passages, of routes that the old folks have made, and carry the learning and the how-to, the legend of the map is there within the song. So there's many layers of depths. And it takes years to sometimes discover where those songs hold their starting place and where they're leading us.
And do you mainly work with songs from the old ones then? You said from the old ones. Is that the source of
the source of the songs that I sing? From my time with Stanley Robertson, my teacher who I mentioned, after he passed, I went on a journey of trying to meet the last elders of oral tradition in the British Isles, where the lineage of song had been kept very much unbroken for hundreds, sometimes thousands of years. Our song tradition here is extraordinary. The British Isles has one of the kind of most complex narrative traditions and melodic traditions, modally, and because we're a complex land and we have ancient roots, but also roots from all over the world have arrived and brought and informed. So hence we have a very rich and abundant and kind of biodiverse song repertoire. But I was very keen to not just learn the songs, but honour the people who have kept them going, and it was the Gypsy Traveller community who were the last custodians, and really only up until COVID in many ways was when the last of those elders passed. But I had 15 years of travelling England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales a little bit as well, meeting those elders, and their songs for me are the ones that hold most potency, and the spell is strongest because of the gift of the transmission of what it means to learn from an old person, ear to ear, eye to eye and heart to heart.
Wow, thank you. So Carolyn, then Sam is using the songs from the old ones, but I think that perhaps the music that you make probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, probably comes direct from the land itself. Of the work that kind of I know that you do, it feels like you're kind of finding songs actually in the landscape. Does that sound?
Yes, that's so. Is this working? Oh yeah. So I didn't consider myself to be a singer, and of any, in the capacity of sharing songs with people, until I really started walking on the land. And it was walking on the land, walking in the weather, being in the raw energy of the weather in the land and the changing seasons that began to awaken something in me which I felt came from my bones. So I very much feel that the songs come from the land and into the bones of me as a singer. And that's how I share them with people, as energy that comes from our bones. And there's a sense of earth singing in our bones when we have this relationship with the raw tapestry of what is happening on the land. And we can find that anyway. It doesn't, I'm very blessed to be in the wild hills of Dartmoor, but you can find it by a canal or a patch of something just with a tree. Anywhere where you are peeling yourself back into that raw connection with the land, so the land can start to fill you, and then the songs emerge. And I don't have a musical tradition in the same way that Sam does, that has informed me and given me a sort of wealth of song source to draw on. So I go out and just pick them up off the ground, or gather them from the stones, or put my hand in the water and find them there. So that's one aspect, the earth singing in our bones. But the other is the truth that moves in our bones, and that is about the songs of the ancestors. So that's where I feel we reach out into a landscape which has been walked and experienced by our ancient people for millennia, for so long, since Ice Age turning. We have walked this land, and our ancestor people have grieved, they've lamented, they've found joy, they've died, they've birthed, they've found love, they've done all the things that we do, and they have left fragments of their stories all across the landscape. And these emerge sometimes as song fragments. And I feel that if we listen close enough, we can feel those. And when you start to pick up these traces and fragments of ancestral story and song, you begin to have a sense of a deep truth that moves in your bones. And then you create a different sort of song, a song that is speaking to those ancient people with gratitude and honouring. And it all becomes part of the same thing, of course, the land, the ancestors, and you as the person who's interacting and being part of that, resonating with it.
And you talk about story fragments from ancestors, but you played a beautiful herringbone whistle this morning. Would you say that there are songs in the bones of the more than human, the other than human, then, that you can pick up on?
Songs in the actual bones, yes,
Yeah.
Songs in the bones. I do a lot of work with bones, actually. I gather a lot of bones, I clean bones, I create bone mandalas, and I sometimes have moments of extraordinary interaction with bones. About 6 years ago, I was in the Scottish Highlands, walking quite high up in the mountains, and I was staying in a little croft nearby. I came to a forested area where there was it was very rainy, really lashing kind of day. I saw a little fleck of white on the side of the mountain, and I walked towards it and discovered it was bone, and then saw a trail, like a Hansel and Gretel trail through the trees of pieces of bone. So I crawled through this forest area, and I came to a dying ground of red deer. I counted in the end, when I managed to read the bones, there were 14 creatures who died there together. And reading the bones and the way they were laid, there were bigger animals with smaller creatures curled up inside them. There was one big hind, a female, on the edge, keeping guard. And they had presumably died of starvation, been snowed in there and gone gently together. So it was like an orchestra of song, finding those bones. And I spent the next 3 days going back and forth and working with the bones, creating mandalas. I then started to weave with those bones, bringing the songs that I was finding in those bones back to Dartmoor. The next year I took some Dartmoor red deer bones back to Scotland and started to do this bone weaving with the bones, but with the songs that they were holding. So yeah, bones figure quite big.
Thank you. So on this side, Lyla, where do your songs come from, do you feel? What's your map?
Well, the bone metaphor is a perfect segue.
Right.
And in your case, not always a metaphor, but quite literally bones. The elders of the Plains nations, such as the Lakota, Dakota, Nakota, dùthchas, different Plains nations, talk about the desire to be a hollow bone. And the prayer, the old prayer that our ancestors used to make all the time, which is, may I be a hollow bone, in the sense that you're hoping, hopefully, maybe, just maybe, you can hollow yourself out enough to where you can receive a song. And so what that means specifically is that, we are physical creatures, yes, but we're also porous, and things are moving in us and out of us all the time. and the way to sort of attune yourself to love is by creating certain conditions within yourself that you are compatible with love. For instance, they told me to be a hollow bone, you try to do two main things. Nothing for the self, meaning not for money, not for fame or reputation. And number two, no fear. And I'm like, yeah, easy, just no fear. And they said if you can practice these two things, you can be a hollow bone for the ancestors. And they told me that the brain is not very well understood by Western medicine, and they will even admit that they don't understand the brain very well, but that what our culture understands is that the brain holds the soul, but that it can hold more than one soul, and it's meant to collaborate with the grandmothers and the grandfathers, the ancestors, the angels, the enlightened masters. Many different cultures have different words for these beings. In my language, we call it dùthchas, which means the holy people, where if we can find the right conditions within ourselves, we can almost dial into becoming a channel or a flute for something beyond us. And what's nice about that is you actually don't have to do anything. And ideally, and I've only managed to do it a couple times, ideally the songs we write are not our songs, but we're simply a vessel for them. And so I think Nothing for the Self has been a great teacher, because I used to only live for myself and very concerned about how people view me and if I was likable and understandable syndromes of our times. And of course, very into money, filling my bank account. And when my elders taught me that, they said, all we're asking you is to change everything. And I was like, okay, that sounds good, because I don't really like what's going on anyways. I'm a bit sad. So, Nothing for the Self has been a great teacher to try and move as an outflow creature rather than a hungry inflow creature. And as I walk around, that I'm giving, but something else is giving to me at the same time, so it's sustainable for me. So that's where my songs come from, hopefully, if I'm doing it right, is from beyond me, in collaboration with me, so that we can share something for the people that can help us in these times, because we need compass and map right now.
Yeah. And would you say that you had an intention to be a song capturer or a hollow bone, or did that just happen?
That's a great question. I think my dad wanted to be a guitarist, but never was, so he said, well, you'll be the guitarist. So, so he put a guitar in my hand when I was like 10. So I don't know if that was a choice or not, but I ended up liking the guitar regardless. And so I think it started really young. And my dad was always spinning vinyl. There was always vinyl spinning since the day I was born. There's always a lot of songs going on, and I'm just kind of like them, and they make me feel good. I'm always singing. So yeah, I think it's maybe what I'm built to do.
Yeah.
Assisted by my father's desire to vicariously be a musician through me. So anyways, yeah, I think it wasn't really sought. It was just ingrained in me. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Charlotte, then, it feels you've had a journey a bit with singing and song, and I sense, just from what I know of your work, that you've moved to a much more, a different place. I mean, just from the beautiful, beautiful I can't remember what you called it, improvisation, vocal improvisation this morning, that you're kind of using yourself a little bit in a way as a hollow bone as well. How does that work for you? Where do your songs come from? Where does the voice come from?
I suppose I've been doing this since I was very young, and so sort of being a famous child from 12, singing holy and religious music and Celtic music in all different forms. You know, in a way, I was super, super egotistical, but in another way, I had no ego at all, and it was just all, you know, when you're that young, you're so, you know, totally adaptable and adaptive, and so I find it really interesting when I think about my route to where I am now, and in a way, like I know from the outside, for other people, it's like, this makes no sense of, you know, what she's doing now, but for me, I'm like, of course, it was always this. Yeah. But I suppose where I feel so connected to this specific part of Wales, to this specific to this specific valley that I have become guardian to in the last 3 years, and I feel so elated by this place. It makes me feel so mischievous. It makes me feel so alive. It makes me feel so grief-stricken. It makes me feel so hopeful. And I think that ever since meeting this land, everything has changed for me. And everything I thought about myself, about singing, about music, about people, about identity, it has changed immeasurably. And so now so much of what I want to do is, I think that I'm like I've got my starter wheels, and I am helping other people with their starter wheels. Not starter wheels in terms of singing and voice work, I've been doing that for a long time, but in terms of, I suppose, the enormous work of healing all of the grief, you know, all of the, you know, immensely complex trauma that is happening, the separation, the disconnection from self and people and land and process, spirituality, all of it. And so I feel like part of my role is to, I don't feel like a song carrier. I do feel like I'm partly channeling from the land, but mostly I feel like I'm helping to open up other people to voice, to singing, to expression, to imagination, to creativity. And so when people come to the land where I am, they come with, you know, all of their inhibitions and all of their, I can't sing, I shouldn't sing, I'm a terrible singer, I can't stay in tune, or I got no rhythm, or all of that sort of stuff, and we disrupt all of that. Not by singing songs, but by totally improvising. So you're just from the void, everybody together. There is no right or wrong, and it gives this freedom that is actual magic, because not only do people create such insane beauty when just improvising together from the void, there is very naturally, you know, a coalescence, a confluence of melody or harmony or rhythm or something that just comes in. So it's fascinating. It's a totally fascinating process, and I love it.
And do you think your land is influencing that?
Without a shadow of a doubt.
And do you think those people go back to their own land, whatever that land might be, with the ability to do that themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. Like one of the practices that we weave in is singing to the land, and that can literally start with Britney Spears, Bar Bar Black Sheep, like whatever. Just start singing, you know, just start that process of, so you get out of your own mind, you get out of the inhibitions, and you start doing it for the land. You start doing it for the more than human world. It's an act of reciprocity. You are like disrupting the ego, and then through that process, then they start more and more catching the melodies that are there, or, you know, singing the words of the happenings that are you know, the whatever is happening, whatever the weather is, the formations of the rocks. So it's definitely all coming from the land without a shadow of a doubt.
And I'll ask this same question of everyone, but maybe start with you. Also, we said that we'd interweave some songs, so if anybody would like to do that at any point, I'd flag me down or say, oh, maybe I'll invite you in a minute. But my next question from that would be, do you think there is a response from the land when we sing in that way, in that intentional way? Do you notice a response?
Absolutely, and I think it, you know, it comes through in very different ways for different people, and also I think what we need to remember is we are hundreds, if not thousands, of years into colonization of these lands, of our separation from our indigenous values, systems, ways, beliefs, spirituality, and so there's a lot of numbness. And so part of the work, I feel, is to resensitize people, but the land is absolutely giving back. It's just people's ability to be able to take that in, and also to disrupt the patterns of doubt, you know, because there's so much doubt of this isn't real, I'm making this up, but you know, what is mine and what is actually coming to me from another place. And I believe in my own journey, the only way, which again I feel very early on, the only way in which to do that is to practice discernment. You know, you keep practicing, you keep giving more and more time and attention, and it's the same as absolutely anything else in the world. If you want to learn to be good at something, it takes time and attention and effort, and that's what I feel like it is with receiving, you know, subtly from the land.
Lovely, thank you. What are we going to do about the songs? Does anybody feel moved at this moment?
So this is a song that I definitely feel like I received from the Nant Caethon Valley in Mid Wales. But also in part, it's for other people. It's for other people to know that they are also the land. You are as ancient as the sun. You are as natural as the heron on the water. You are as wild as the brambles on the mountain. You are as peaceful as the moon. You are as precious as a jewel. You are as tender as a dewdrop in the morning. You are the dreaming of the earth. You are the one and only you.
Wonderful, thank you. So,
I got one.
excellent.
So this song is called Mamulad. Am I saying that right? Mamulad, motherland? Mamulad. Or how would you say motherland in Welsh? Ah, okay. Yeah. Well, it's called Mamulad, which apparently was improperly named. But we'll roll with it for now, and then you'll help me rename it. Well, the reason I named it Mamulad is because I was told that in some Brythonic languages that means something to the effect of motherland. And this was at a time when I was realizing my European indigenous roots had meaning on my father's side, and anyways, and it was a tribute to all the women who had been persecuted as witches throughout Europe, or what we now call Europe, but has many older names than that. So yeah, I won't belabor the description. 6 million women thrown to the flames. The library is burning, I'll remember their names. The first colonization of the human race didn't happen in America, it happened in the place of Mamulad, mother country, Magyarország, the people's land, Nasza Ziemia, the people's soil. I hear you calling. We've been afraid to look at the past and see the truth that's there. But take my hand, let's walk the land. Now you don't have to be scared. There's an ancient motherland that we have forgotten, and great-grandmothers burned at the stake for holding the earth in their hands, for holding the earth in their hands, for holding the earth in their hands. Persecuted as witches, warlocks and killers, but these were not evil people, these were Europe's healers. These were Europe's healers. They were healers. They were healers. And this old heart of mine, it weeps away for all of the ceremonies going up in flames. But feeling is healing, and this is how we wash away the pain. Yes, feeling is healing, and this is why we remember their names. Yes, feeling is healing, and this is how we wash away the pain. So let it rain on this land. My mother's medicine lives in the earth, rising from the ashes as we remember. I will place my feet in the Tuscan streams to mend the tattered edges of my father's dreams. My father's dreams. I will not choose war. I will choose peace. And honor the ancestors that live inside of me, live inside of me, live inside of me, yeah. And then there's some, I usually have a guitar in my hands, it goes, honor what lives inside of us. Thank you. Gotta rename it. We'll rename it.
Okay. Oh, Carolyn, excellent. I'm going to put that down. Whichever works.
So I'm going to sing. So a lot of the feeling I have about song is it's connecting to memory. But what it doesn't connect for me is surface memory. So in 40 years of being a singer, I probably only remember about 2 songs. So my best ally is my music stand and bits of paper. So this is the song I'm going to share. Translation is, to the highlands, from the valleys, we go on paths trodden by deer. This is our secret home. It's all that we have known. These mountains where our people still stand. This amber and copper honour our people's land. This whetstone and grinding rock, this warm vessel of honey, honours our people's land. On the wild and free mountains where our people still stand. These blessings of summer, this bellowing of stags, these wounds of winter, honour our people's land. On the wild and free mountains where our people still stand. Chari brig anu glenos, nisere man talo elanti, anneque quella runa kelo, quacuna tecnato, sondo priquiro, kajal bawiru, anwe bronjo, kajal bawiru, a kleiner Braun, kajal bawiru, da baka cry crow, sondo brigan rijo, ati biwiro, chari brigano glenos, nisere man talo elanti, anneque quella runa kelo, quacuna tecnato, sondo brignano, kajaba wiru, and moiti samin, kajaba wiru, balcosito prim, kajaba wiru, Grektoki jamo, sondo brigan hrijo, ati binano, ati biwiro.
Would you like to sing a little bit as well?
Yes.
This is the man who taught me many of my songs. This is Stanley's song that he inherited from his aunt, Muggy. And Maggie died an old lady in the 1970s. And I was very lucky to hear a recording that he'd made in the 1950s. Of her, and she never cut her hair in her whole life, and she never wore a pair of shoes. And that's pretty impressive if you live in Aberdeenshire. And she would sit round the fire, and they said she'd sing till the morning star, till Venus would come up, all through the night. That was John. John was talking about Venus, John Young, and he also, in the last panel, was talking about permission. And the how we ask, and this word reciprocity comes up a lot in these circles. It's the daily question. And this is a song of hers, of Maggie's. It's an asking permission of the land. It's called Morloch Maggie, Maggie, and but Morloch Maggie, the moor on the loch. She's both woman, but she's also a spirit of those entities, of those places. You have to take yourself to the lowland hills, just rolling off the Cairngorms into the northeast, to place yourself in that space. And this is a bit of a call and response song. And your bit, although it isn't really, this isn't a chorus, but I'll teach you this bit and you can join in. And your part goes, I'll grant them all to my Moloch Maggie, if she consents for to gang with me. So we'll just do a little practice of that. I'll break that down for you. To give consent, love, all together. To give consent, love, I dare not give. I dare not give. That's the chorus. That's not the chorus. I just keep singing a totally different part of the song. And I'll grant them all to. It's the same tune. My Moloch Maggie. That's it. We just done that bit, and then you do. If she consents for little twiddles there. If she consents for to gang with me. To gang with me. So we're improvising this a little bit. And remember, there's no rhythm. So it's free time. So we're not doing this all at the same time. And that's part of the beauty of it. Yeah. Oh, yes. And I'll grant them all to. Grant them all. I'll grant them all to my Moloch Maggie. So it's to the land. If she consents for to gang with me, to go with me, yeah, to gang with me. So that's old Scots. Yeah. Anyway, we'll just give it a go. And do you see, love, yon flock of sheep? 100 must I own, but 2 or 3, and I'll grant them all to my Moloch Maggie, if she consents for to gang with me, to give consent, love, I dare not give, to herd your sheep high on yon heathery hill, and I'll grant them all to my Moloch Maggie, if she consents for to gang with me. And do you see, love, yon herd of cows, 100 must I own, but 2 or 3, and I'll grant them all to my Moloch Maggie, if she consents for to gang with me, to give consent, love, I dare not give, to herd your cows high on yon heathery hill. And I'll grant them all to my Moloch Maggie, if she consents for to gang with me. And do you see, yon ships at sea? 100 must I own, but 2 or 3, and I'll grant them all to my Moloch Maggie, if she consents for to gang with me. So it goes on.
Land songs. So, going back to talking about them, what are songs for? And I'll come, Sam, to you first. So you do wonderful work with nightingales and conservation. So I'd love to just hear a little bit about how you're using songs for that, and actually how we restore that practice as well. So what are they for, and how do we restore it? How do we bring this back at this moment of healing that we're kind of trying to hold kind of in these places that we meet?
Yeah, well, there are so many answers to that question. There's many answers as there are singers, and every singer has many reasons. And we, you bring up the word healing. We have a doctor in the house as well, and I feel that we are, in many ways, we're all here are doctors in some respect. We're all here doing this work and gathered because of the healing that's needed. And how do songs figure in that? You speak about nature, and my relationship with Nightingale, the greatest singer of them all, in my opinion. Ask the Nightingale, what are your songs for? Well, his songs are for, and I say he because it's the males that sing. He's singing for sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and I have evidence of this. For life. For life. Exactly. And life wouldn't be worth it without all three of them. Possible even. But it's more than that. It's more than that. For me, the songs of the land, our songs of the land, and the song of the nightingale, the song of the song thrush, of the lark, of the turtle dove, of cuckoo, of the wren, of all these wonderful, wonderful members of the orchestra of Birdland. They are singing for joy. They are singing for their sense of self. They are singing for reasons that I don't have the language. I don't think humans have ever had language for, but we definitely have an empathetic resonance and understanding, a deep feeling that there's a shared purpose in here. And they're singing for attention, for a sense of possibility that we have a voice. And it's not just about breeding, but it's about collaboration. And the nightingale is a wonderful creature because they sing with us, in not the only bird that does, but a song in these lands here that so unequivocally recognizes us and our song and our presence and our emotions, and can somehow sing to that. and sing with that. The poets and the great writers and creatives of these lands and many lands across the Northern Hemisphere who've lived with nightingales for millennia have been very aware of this. And when I make music with the birds and bring other musicians, and Charlotte, you'll be coming in this spring to meet Nightingale, I think we recognise that there's so much more potential for what song can do for restoration, for celebration of life, of what is alive, particularly in spring when the world is returning from the hardness, the bitterness, the absence of winter, the disappearance. The birds speak for the land itself, that reawakening, and that we are part of that. And when we do that, for me, the activism in that is not just about the romance and the pure beauty, but it's about creating a space of transformation, allowing awe to kind of to explode, and for us doubters, as you say, the cynics in us, to just remember once again that why do we doubt? Why did we ever not do this? When did we ever stop singing with the birds? And when did we forget what they were, stopped understanding what they are saying and appreciating what a beautiful poet they are? So it's a remembrance, and it's a reminder, but it's also remembering in that way of bringing the parts of ourselves that are nightingale, because we are all a bit nightingale, we're all a bit oak tree, we're all a bit song thrush, bringing them back as part of our beings and belonging. Thank you. Sorry, long answer.
No. Stop. So we only have a couple of minutes left. I know, we could be here for hours, couldn't we? I'd love to come lastly to you, Carolyn, then, because you use song kind of ceremonially this morning, and I just wondered if you could say something about that. How do we use songs as kind of ceremonial honouring of the sacred, of all that is, you know, however we language and imagine that? How does that work?
That question. So I think that there are so many levels on which we can approach even the word ceremony, and it can be daunting to think that, you know, this has to be something that is this big, when actually it can be this big, and the ceremony that's like this can be just as potent, and the song that is whispered. There was a word that I was sharing in the workshop. It's my favourite Proto-Celtic word. It's what lucaith, and it means a song or a prayer that is whispered to the land. And that in itself can be the most powerful form of ceremony, because you've brought yourself in really close to what is there, to the land, to the ancestors, whatever it is that you're invoking or wanting to meet. And then you've made yourself quiet. And then what you're offering is so tender. And I think ceremony can also be a way that we come together in unexpected ways. So one thing, the last time I came to Oxford, I was coming back on the train to Dartmoor, which I'm going to be doing in a few hours' time. And during that time, I got a message from the community of women with whom I've worked for a long time, to say that the time had come that one of our sisters was passing. She was in the last few hours of her dying. And there was a group of women with her, and then there were, you know, ripples of other women around, connecting and holding the space. So what it felt to me was that I could do was to gather in a song for her. And women, this is the beauty of, oh my goodness, WhatsApp, isn't it? So women were sending messages to me while I was on the train of lines of song, prayer really, for me to turn into a song, so that we could create something that the women who were actually sitting with her, we could give it to them to sing to her as she passed over. So it was incredibly spontaneous, and I ended up actually creating the song inside the toilet on the train, because it's the only place where I could be quiet. I had all these words that had been coming in, and I sat in there and just created, found the tune, made a recording of it so I could remember it, started to pass it to the women, started to go out and out and out, and then it arrived at the bedside of our sister who was leaving, and it was sung to her. And it was this incredible ceremony that just got spun together out of nothing, was carried out in the toilet of a train, but that became a sacred shrine for that moment in time, so that all of this could be held within the vessel of what we were doing. And its purpose was achieved, which was to send her with our love, with something that we had created through song. So I think a ceremony, we can be so fluid in how we use that word and allow it to be whatever we want it to be for that moment in time, and for song to be a beautiful ingredient within that.
Fantastic. I think we're going to have to leave it there. I'm guessing we're at time, are we? 5 minutes. Is there a question? I think we can take one question, perhaps. Apologies, I hope to leave a bit more time. Way in the back. But Mike, I'm guessing.
One thing was a message. I listened to trees, and I was sitting up there in the morning when you were singing, Charlotte and Carolyn anyway, and Lyla. And I felt the presence of the trees that I speak to leaning in and feeling like this was a path to healing. And I think I'm probably mad with the tree thing, but that's what it felt like anyway. They were leaning in. And the thing that I wanted to ask you is, you talked a lot about the ancestors speaking. And I think one of the questions was this: do you feel sometimes that maybe the aurochs speak to you, or the lynx, or even the grey squirrels? And do those animals, those more than humans, the oak trees, speak to you and ask for their messages also to be heard?
Very quickly, you bring up auroch and lynx. Are you specifically asking about species that are no longer here?
Well, when I sit in the woods, I feel them around me sometimes. Yeah. So I just wondered whether any of you did feel those ones around you.
Can I just say they are still here? The auroch passed in the 1600s. Lynx, I'm not entirely sure, beavers 450 or 50 years ago still. But the landscape, the oak tree that we have, that's an 800-year-old oak tree, will remember wolf. Will remember because they lived and snuggled in the roots of many of our trees and the land around us. So their memory is still imprinted in our ecology here, literally because there are beings who are still alive who witnessed those now extinct cattle. And so I think, on a very practical level, yes, they are still here. Can we hear them? I don't know. If you listen in the right way with the right ears and you ask their name, then I'm sure there are echoes. If we can speak to our ancestors, as we've been saying for tens of thousands of years, they are just part of that beautiful roll call of our previous guests on the earth. So I hope we can.
Can I say something? So there's a wonderful writer called Stephen Howard Booner, and there's a great book of his called Plant Intelligence in the Imaginal Realm. And he talks about training ourselves as humans who have been born into modernity to be able to read the metaphysical background of the world, which is everything. Everything is speaking. Everything is communicating. Everything is vibrating. In the Scottish tradition, the Oran Mor, the great universal song, to be existing is to be vibrating. To be vibrating is to be emanating sound. So in a scientific way, it makes sense to me that everything is communicating. And it's really about the sensitivity, the amount of time and attention, the deep practice that we give to being receptive. us trying to hollow ourselves out, as Lyla talked about, her elders talking about, so that we can receive, and it be, you know, us to be so free of our shit, of our accumulated stuff, that we can really hear. That's what it means to me, and I feel like I get messages from the land where I am, but much like Mary was saying earlier in the Soil and Sisterhood, I'm a little bit dense as well, and I need to be slapped round the face, and it needs to be really listen. Because otherwise I'm just too, I'm you know, pretty fractured. I've got a fractured modern mind, which is, you know, distracted. But I feel like the most potent time for me is dawn. And so there's specifically at dawn, and I think for other people, you know, these are the sort of the veil times, or when the veil is thinnest. But for me, to listen at dawn is when I feel like whew, there's real clarity. You know, it's probably in a way because there's not many humans awake where I am, and so all of that, like all of the busy, you know, stuff that fills the ether. Anyway, I'm babbling now, but yeah, that book is amazing.
Thank you so much, that's beautiful. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to my wonderful singers. Lyla, you've asked to finish with the Lakota song.
We don't have to, but
I'd love you
okay.
to.
Hello, hello, hello. I think I'll use this handheld mic for this. I'm Danae, but my mom and I really hung out quite a bit with the Lakota Nation from my childhood onward, and I had the great joy of learning a lot of their songs. And if songs weren't so powerful, the systems of oppression wouldn't have worked so hard to try to take them away from us. You know, I said in the last panel, in 1603, Queen Elizabeth I decreed that every Celtic harpist be hung. And when they came into Scotland, they saw the bards. They would kill the bards first, who carried the songs and the stories, and they would bury them face down so their stories would die with them. And when our brothers and sisters from Africa were brutally and unjustly and horrifically kidnapped and enslaved, one of the first things they did was take away their instruments, try to take away their songs, mix them all together, but that didn't work. They still found their songs, you know. And so across the world, these songs have been tried to be taken from us. In my people, it was illegal for us to sing until 1978. In America, it was illegal to practice our ceremonial songs. So this song is very much from the Lakota Nation. And my only request, and this is a very serious request, is to turn off all recording devices. The Lakota elders are very stern about that, very, very stern. So not only out of respect for them, but to not get me in trouble, please no recording.
Thank you so much for coming. We have our closing ceremony, is it? Soon. See you there. Thank you.